So far we've learned about the chambers of the heart. We know about the pericardium. We're starting to learn a little bit about the path of blood flow and why sometimes blood in arteries is blue, but only in the pulmonary circulation, right? So let's look one more time at the blood vessels and what we've learned so far. Okay, so uh, blood is going to come from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava into the right atrium, go from the right atrium into the right ventricle, and is going to leave the right ventricle by going through the pulmonary trunk, pulmonary arteries, right? Then it goes to the lungs, drops off CO2, picks up oxygen, turns red, comes back to the heart in the pulmonary veins, goes into the left atrium, down into the left ventricle. Then the left ventricle is going to push it out through the aorta. And then it's going to go all over the body, dropping off oxygen, picking up yucky old CO2, and then it's going to come back to the heart through the vena cava, right? Okay. So what else do we need to know about? We need to know about the valves. Here's something important to know. Valves are one-way doors. Valves are one-way doors. Valves are like one-way doors. Valves are meant to allow it to be very easy for blood, for example, to go one way. But if the blood tries to go backwards, it'll go backwards, and it'll slam that door shut. So let me enact blood, okay? So here we are, I'm blood, and I'm like, I'm going to go into the ventricle. Really easy. But as soon as I try to go backwards, I'm like, what's the deal? I just came through that door, right? They are one-way doors. As a matter of fact, if something happens to the valve and the valve no longer is a one-way door and it becomes one of those kind of doors that swings both ways, that is called a prolapsed valve. A prolapsed valve or a prolapsing valve is a valve that no longer acts as a one-way door. Now, why do we need one-way doors? Remember, the atria are going to be in systole while the ventricles are in diastole. So that means the blood is going to be going down into the ventricles. But when the ventricles are in systole, when they contract, we don't want the blood going back out the way it came. Then we'd be just like, I don't know, mixing the blood around. We want to make sure that when the ventricles contract, that the blood keeps moving forward. And these one-way valves do that. All right. Now, let's talk about the easiest valve names first. There are two valves that are known as semilunar valves. I mentioned that, but semilunar is not going to be the answer to anything on my quizzes. The two valves that are called semilunar are pulmonary and then the mitral valve. The mitral valve, that's wrong. That is not true. The two semilunar valves are the pulmonary valve and the aortic valve. It's just that there's no picture of the aortic valve here because the aortic valve, in order to find it, I'd have to go right in there. But you can see it on the model that you will be examining in lab this week. Okay, so the semilunar valves are the pulmonary valve, and the aortic valve. And these are the easy valves because they are the doors between a ventricle and then those arteries. So what would you call the door into the bedroom? You'd call it the bedroom door, right? And the door from the right ventricle here into the pulmonary artery is the pulmonary valve. And the door from the left ventricle, right here, into the aorta is the aortic valve. So those guys are really easy. A kind of question you might get on an exam or a quiz is, what's the name of the exit door from the left ventricle? The exit door is the aortic valve. From the right ventricle, the exit door is the pulmonary valve, right? Because when blood needs to exit, it goes out through the pulmonary valve. Now, the other valves are a little bit harder, easier to see, but a little bit harder. The tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve. Tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve. The bicuspid valve very often is referred to as the mitral valve, even in medicine today. And I accept either term, so whichever you like. Some people like tricuspid, bicuspid. By the way, tricuspid means 3 points on it. Bicuspid means there's 2 points on it. But some people find it easy to get those confused, so they like tricuspid with mitral. But you should remember that the exit door from the right atrium is the tricuspid valve, or I could say the entry door to the right ventricle is the tricuspid valve. The exit door of the left atrium is the bicuspid valve or mitral. The entry door to the left ventricle is the mitral valve or bicuspid valve. Now, these are not semilunar valves, and how do you know? Because they have got all of this machinery attaching them to the wall of the ventricle. So when you look at these valves, do you see these little muscle things kind of popping up there? Those muscle things have a name, and you need to know that. They are called papillary muscles. Papillary muscles are found in both of the ventricles. Papillary muscles are attached to the edge of the valve by structures called chordae tendineae, okay, or tendinous cords, but the chordae tendineae. And why? Okay, well, let me reenact my blood going through the heart. Okay, so actually, I'm going to get over here. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to go into the ventricle. So the right atrium is just contracted and it's pushing me through that door. And now, when the right ventricle contracts, the body wants me to keep going forward. But, I'm blood. I don't know where I'm going. So when the ventricle contracts, I'll just push everywhere. And so I will push back on the door I just came through. Which door? If I was in the right atrium into the right ventricle, the tricuspid valve. So I'll be pushing back. Now, going from the right atrium into the right ventricle, there's not a whole lot of force generated. But these guys, the ventricles, those ventricles, when they contract really hard. Okay, so the blood is going to really try to go backwards and try to push that door open, right? So I've come in here. Now when I push backwards, I'll be pushing kind of hard. So what life has done is taken it so that this one-way door here, this one-way door, it's got reinforcements. It is as if the edge of the door has got a rope attached to it. The ropes are the tendinous cords or chordae tendineae. And then hanging on to the edge of the rope is the papillary muscle here. Okay, and so it's kind of like the body let the blood go in, and now the edge of the door, the blood's pushing really hard trying to get through. There's a rope attached to the end of the door, and the papillary muscles, this big strong guy going, nope, you're not pushing the door back the wrong way. Okay, so the tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve, they've got all of this reinforcement, and that reinforcement allows them to resist being prolapsed. So the blood goes from here to here, and then it goes from here out to there, and it doesn't go backwards. Okay? So endocardium and myocardium. What's fascinating to me, and I really wish I knew someone I could talk to about this who knew more about it, is that the inside of the human heart is not smooth the way humanity would build a pump. When we build a water pump or whatever, we build that pump to have a very smooth inside. The heart's not smooth inside. Look at all these weird little, they're called trabeculae, but look at all of that weird structure. That is not a mistake. That is deliberate. All of that interior ridging does something for the optimal fluid dynamics of the movement of blood through the heart. Those oracles we talked about, even weirder. And so I always wonder about that. But even though in one way the heart is not smooth, it does have a very slick inner lining. And that slick inner lining is known as endocardium. By the way, you should know that this prefix, endo always means inside, and exo always means outside. Like, remember, exocytosis is spitting something out of a cell. The opposite of exo is endo. Oh yeah, that's right. We learned endo back then too, right? So endocardium is the smooth lining of the inside of the heart. The myocardium is the name for heart muscle. Okay, so myocardium, myo always relates to muscle. Now, this is important, okay? If I point to anywhere here and I ask what kind of tissue is this, the right answer is myocardium. But if I point to this and I say identify this structure or name this structure, the answer to that is interventricular septum. Interventricular septum. Okay, so what tissue is this? Myocardium. Name this structure interventricular septum. Right? So where are papillary muscles found? Remember, I'm kind of tricky sometimes, so make sure you read the entire question and all of the answers. Are papillary muscles found in the atria? No. There is a type of muscle there. We don't have to learn it. No. Are they in the ventricles? Yes, because that's what these guys, that's what these guys are. And yes, they are in the ventricles. But like I said, keep reading the entire question. Are they attached to the chordae tendineae? Why, yes, they are. As a matter of fact, they are attached to the edges of the valves. So the answer is both 2 and 3 are correct. Okay? Good. Now, you are going to need to know the path of blood flow. And there's a good reason why. The path of blood flow, once you have it in your head, particularly those of you who are going into a medical career, once you've got the map in your head, things will make sense. And when things make sense, you don't have to memorize them. Okay? For example, if I told you I would give you $10,000 if you could get this package to LA International Airport within 2 hours, could you do it? Well, yeah, because you know how to get there. You've got the map in your head. What if I told you, oh no, the 405 freeway is closed at La Tierra Boulevard. I really don't know if La Tierra Boulevard goes to the 405 freeway. But if I told you where that the 405 freeway was closed at a certain spot, you probably would say, that's no trouble. I was going to take the 105 there anyway. Or if I tell you the 105 is closed, you go, no worries, I'll take the 91, right? If I told you that the road you usually take to get from your house to school is closed, you're not going to go, oh, I guess I can't go, right? Because in your head, you know that, oh, I'll just take this other street. If you've got the map in your head, then you can predict what kind of badness would happen. If I told you that, I don't know, the 605 freeway was completely closed on the northbound lanes from the 5 to the 90 or something like that. If you were going south, you would go, oh, well, I don't have to worry about that, right? So that's the benefit of having this map in your head. Now, having this map in your head, you can start at any point, and we're going to start on the next video.